Welcome back to another episode of the Birdman, and today I'll be joining my sister, Z the Bird Nerd, to the ravine. Let's see what birds we can find.
Almost immediately, even before leaving the neighborhood, we had some great species reveal themselves. This of course included the suburban usuals like house sparrows and black-billed magpies, but we even tacked on a chipping sparrow and some chickadees. Further into the suburbs, we gathered even more species, including an American robin, a rather vibrant house finch, a very beautiful yet very invasive bird, as well as possibly the most brief glimpses of a blue jay. And then we had the star of the Pre-Ravine show, the northern flicker, which gave us honestly very good looks. We even got a shot of her perched up with a house finch. So cool.
Well guys, we've made it to the ravine. Let's hope we can up our species list even more.
With this in mind, we almost immediately spotted another robin, but also got eyes on our 9th species, the dark-eyed junco. This individual is especially cool since it was a juvenile, and it's always cool to see the variations in plumage. After some time with the juncos though, we descended deeper into the ravine into the more productive patches of forest. Here we gathered our 10th and 11th species, that being the American crow, which did this epic pose for us, and this wonderful, wonderful glimpse of a red-eyed vireo. More on those later though. Among these, we also got even better glimpses of my mascot bird, the black-capped chickadee. So, let's talk about them. This little member of the Parrottae family is one of the most beloved North American feeder birds. They are known for their acrobatic demeanor, spherical appearance, and overall cuteness, and with their large range, they are a part of most people's lives. Speaking of, they can be found pretty much everywhere north of the Carolina chickadees range, a virtually identical looking bird. Anyways though, the appearance of the black-capped. These birds measure in at 13 to 15 centimeters in length and up to 20 centimeters in wingspan, and also weigh up to roughly 9 to 14 grams. They are also extremely iconic enough to be my mascot bird. With their black cap and throat, clean white cheek patches, slaty grayish blue back, white fringes on its wings, and yellowish flanks. Their plumage is not the only iconic thing about these birds though. They possess some of the most iconic calls of any species. For example, their Chickadee alarm call, for which they were named. Fun fact, the more D's added on, the larger the threat. Take a listen. And another famous call is the phoebe. This one is prominently delivered during courtship, but can also be heard in the defensive territories. Take another listen. Anyways, to end off this segment, what exactly does the chickadee eat? Well, typically, these small members of the tit family will glean insects, spiders, and even some fruit. They have also become quite acclimatized to the practice of feeders, and will gladly chow down on most specifically suet and sunflower seeds. They'll even land on your outstretched hand in some areas if you give them some. Leaving the creek behind though, we noticed something in the trees. Our next bird. That's right, species number 12 was the hairy woodpecker. Ah yes, the downy woodpecker's older brother. They are very similar birds though, so how might you tell the difference? Well, for one, size. Harries are typically much bigger, coming in at around 19 to 24 centimeters in length, 39 centimeters in wingspan, and roughly 40 to 95 grams. Another clue is the beak length relative to their head size. Hairy woodpeckers have beaks around the length of their heads, while downies are about half the size of theirs. And finally, the red patch on the males. In downy woodpeckers, this spot is one continuous blob, but on hairy woodpeckers, it is split in half by a black stripe. How neat. Other than this one look-alike though, hairy woodpeckers are quite distinctive and shouldn't be too hard to identify. What I find hardest to distinguish, however, is this bird's call, which sounds like a descending high-pitched whinny or cackle. It is quite the distinctive sound though, and can be distinguished from the downy by a slightly lower pitch. I'll play both here so that you can directly compare the two. If you wish to find the hairy woodpecker though, it is best that you search mixed coniferous or hardwood forests, denser more mature stands, fire-burned woods, and even parks with larger trees. Their range extends across all of Canada pretty much, and the only region to be omitted is Nunavut. And finally, when it comes to feeding, the hairy woodpecker will trip, drill, and debark trees, usually dead or decaying ones, in search of bark and wood-boring beetles and their larvae. They do also occasionally partake in berries, and especially suet in backyard feeders. Also, one strange thing about woodpeckers is that they have zygodactyl feet, which means that the second and third toes are positioned forwards, and the first and fourth are positioned backwards. This adaptation helps them grip trees, though a lot of their strength when pecking actually comes from their tail, which braces them. Moving on though, me and my sister headed down to the creek to see what birds we could find, and we found some, including the downy woodpecker I just talked about. It was really quite strange as he was feeding on some exposed roots. I've never seen that before. We even got some better views when they perched in some nearby bushes. The other two species we saw here though were extra special, as they were lifers. If you don't know what a lifer is, it's a bird that you just saw for the first time in your entire life, and we got two of them in this one creek. The first of which being this alder flycatcher. See it? Well, it's right there. This bird belongs to the genus Empidonax, a group notorious for being difficult to identify because all the birds look the same. The second lifer though was the orange-crowned warbler, a small drab wood warbler species common across Canada. These sightings got me and my sister absolutely stoked as they marked the third and fourth lifer species in all of 2025. And not to mention the 14th and 15th species of our total on this trip. And it wouldn't be long before we made that 16 as my sister spotted something up in the trees. This is a rose-breasted grosbeak and probably the reason you clicked on this video. This individual just so happened to be a female though, in stark contrast to the male's black, white, and red plumage. Both of the sexes are equally as complex, intricate, and beautiful in my opinion though. Anyways though, to wrap up this bird, a little bit of trivia about its name actually. Grosbeak, which comes from the French words for large beak, which is an astute observation to its absolute seed-destroying machine.
Are we hyped, man? Oh my goodness, such a good spot. Oh, I think that was a rose-breasted grosbeak. Oh, wonderful.
Clearly, we were quite happy with our find. In pursuit of better views of the rose-breasted grosbeak, though, a new lifer graced our eyes. Let us have Blackpoll Warbler down for the count. Usually these birds are a very bold black and white, but this one was in a non-breeding or migratory plumage.
Well, what a scramble that was. And I think after that grosbeak, everything's pretty much a bonus. So, just looking for some woodpeckers that we hear in here. Maybe we'll gather a few more before we head out.
Me and my sister continued down the trail though, and it wasn't long before we found our next bonus bird and the 18th species of the trip, which was this adorable white-breasted nuthatch. It is so much fun to watch these guys foraging around. This guy was also especially exciting since it had been so long since I've seen them last, let alone got them on camera. Further down the path, we got views on our last species that was technically in the ravine, one that we had seen earlier but only for a glimpse. I'm of course talking about the red-eyed vireo. This bird is one of the most widespread summer passerines in North America, but can be the most seldom seen as it frequents only the highest and densest canopies, being obscured by the summer greenery. When you do secure looks though, you will find a rather large vireo species with a greenish overall color, buffy underparts, an eye stripe, a slight crown, and as it's named, and if you get a really good look, a red eye. What these birds are known for is not their appearance though, but rather their song. One individual was once tallied singing their robin-like melody 22,000 individual times in a single day. Crazy dedication from this little songster. Just take a listen to one of these iterations. Aside from this, if you wish to find this bird, be sure to check its favorite habitats of mixed deciduous forests, especially those which contain trembling aspen. Its range extends across most of the southern half of Canada, save for a good portion of the western half of British Columbia, though it can still be seen around the Vancouver-Victoria area. Within this bird's habitat, it will of course glean insects, especially larvae and caterpillars, the latter of which I was fortunate enough to catch on camera. So cool. During migrations though, these birds will also feast on berries. In all, the red-eyed vireo is one of my favorite summer birds, and it's always rewarding and satisfying to finally get your eyes on them, and the feeling definitely multiplies when you get a good shot. Anyways, to end off our adventure. And so, after a long day of birding, we began the trek back, gathering our 19th species and the last one technically in the ravine, a ring-billed gull. Outside of the ravine though, we got one last little show from the birds, including this one house finch. absolutely the best views I've ever gotten of a juvenile American robin. And we even hit species number 20, the American goldfinch. That's so cool, I'm so glad we got to grab this one. Here's a closer look for any of you who might not be so familiar. And with that, our adventure for today had come to an end, and me and my sister started heading home.